everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking. Today we're going to talk about samurai clothing. What were they wearing underneath their armor? Well, let's get to it. Any pepperoni pizza in there? Okay, so the clothing of a samurai. Well, first things first, we need to begin from the actual underwear, and it is called Fundoshi. Now, Fundoshi is interesting. It's an interesting element because you have to consider that the Japanese, particularly male Japanese, because Fundoshi was only worn by male Japanese, have been wearing it forever. Now, we're talking about from samurai times all the way to the Second World War, and it was only after the Second World War that, because of Americanization, they actually started using the elastified ones from the West. So what Fundoshi actually is simply a strip of cloth wound around the hips. As far as the fabrics are concerned, it could be made using white linen or white cotton. All Japanese males would use them, from low status to high status, from very poor to very rich. Now, since this is a video dedicated to the samurai, I will not be talking about women's underwear in ancient Japan. Of course, I will make a dedicated video to that, which will obviously get 5 times the amount of views that this video will get, but that is YouTube, what can you do? Moving to the trousers, what kind of trousers or pants were the Japanese using? Well, samurai had a very distinctive kind of trousers that they were using, and they are called hakama. Now, hakama were originally simply pants or trousers used on horseback. Hence, they are very, very wide and very loose, as not to impede someone riding a horse. Also, they were made of a very resistive fabric in order to give a certain degree of protection. With time, hakama will become a symbol of samurai status. There were 2 kinds of Japanese trousers or loose trousers, the hakama and the kobakama, which was the shorter version. Now, as a Japanese reenactor in samurai armor, I'd like to say that when you wear your armor, one thing that you normally do is that you do tighten the trousers a little bit, because if you just let them loose, they might become a hindrance if you need to run. So as the upper torso is concerned, they just wore a shitagi, which was basically just a normal Japanese shirt worn under armor. We then move to footwear. We've got the tabi. Now, tabi are still used in Japan today. Tabi are just socks, but they are divided at the toe, so that it will be easier to wear the traditional Japanese sandals, which are similar to flip-flops. Now, what's interesting about tabi is that first, they have been using tabi since the 15th century, so tabi would be historically accurate with my set of armor, which is 16th century, and also that there were several kinds of tabi, and sometimes they made tabi with harder fabric, and you also had armored tabi. Now, still having to do with footwear, we've got the zori, which are also called waraji. Now, these are straw sandals. Now, this is where a lot of people tend to be surprised, because they see the samurai fully armored and then his feet are completely exposed. Well, there are a few reasons for this, and I would like to talk about it very quickly. So, what these basically are, well, all samurai had these, okay, but they were not the only solution to footwear in combat. There are other possibilities. We have got kutsu and kegutsu. Kutsu were basically, well, the term kutsu in modern day Japanese just refers to shoes. But in samurai times, and when you do samurai reenactment, when you talk about kutsu, you're talking about leather boots, mostly used for riding horse. Kegutsu instead are leather shoes which are trimmed with bear fur. Now, personally, I don't particularly like kegutsu, but I would like to get kutsu, so leather boots, because when I wear samurai armor, I do feel a lack of protection on my feet. Now, we have just seen that you could buy armored tabi, so that would probably provide protection, but still, I do feel that my feet are exposed. Now, mind you, I don't actually mean exposed to attacks. It's very, very unlikely in a fight that your opponent is actually going to try and poke your feet while you're fighting, because if you try and poke your opponents in the feet, well, first of all, it's a very difficult target to hit properly during combat, and secondly, you're exposing your entire upper body, which is on the other hand where all your critical organs and your head are. So it's not a good tactics, and I doubt anyone would try to do it unless they were in a video game. In reality, you wouldn't risk your life or being hit in the head just because you want to poke the opponent's feet because they are unarmored. So when I say lack of protection, I actually talk about protection from the ground. Probably, I'm not sure, but maybe perhaps in Japanese battlefields that wasn't a big problem. I mean, if you're walking on grass, it's not a problem at all. But the other day I was actually wearing my samurai armor and I was on top of a mountain here in Sicily, and differently from other groves and woods that I have used for making videos where we've got very nice smooth soil with grass, there it was very, very rocky, and believe me, it was really a nightmare. Like every time I could hit a rock with my toes, because they're basically exposed. When you wear these, if you want to wear them properly, well, your toes should actually go further up here. They actually should extend outside. So this is something I don't particularly like, and I think I will move to kutsu. That will be much better for me. Anyways, we haven't finished with footwear because we also got the geta. Now geta, very famous, they are clogs, and they are wooden, as you can see. There isn't only one style. This is a very, very common style of geta with the two blocks of wood at the bottom. Is it easy to walk on these? Not when you first do it, but you get used to it, and after a month or a couple of months I could actually run with these, and I could easily pull my kendo moves or kenjutsu moves without any problems. So yeah, they are okay, but of course you can't run as much as you would with other kinds of footwear, so this would be the most limiting ones among all the kinds of shoes that I have mentioned. Now, did the samurai actually use these? Well, some samurai did, and we have iconography representing this, but one thing that should be said is that kegutsu, kutsu and waraji or zori were much more common. These were very uncommon, and the samurai who did wear these were normally made fun of by other samurais from other clans, because normally these would be linked to geisha. An interesting fun fact for you, when you see this kind of clogs, then you know that the person you have in front is not a geisha, but it's a maiko, meaning an apprentice, because only very young women wear these kind of clogs in Japan. Now, often you must have noticed while I was wearing my samurai armor that this part of my hands is exposed, because the kote of the gauntlet of the Japanese armor only protects the back of your hand. So a lot of people have asked me then again, why don't you have any form of protection for your hand? Well, there are possibilities. That is my choice, and it was a choice of many samurai to wear this in order to feel your weapon and be able to use it properly, obviously renouncing to some protection factor. But you do also have gloves in Japanese samurai clothing. These Japanese gloves are called yugake, and they were used to provide both protection from blows and the cold without limiting too much your grip. We then move to the ua obi or himo. Now this is a sash that was used by samurai and put over the armor, so it was one of the last parts of your equipment to wear, that was used as a weapon holder. So you would use it to hold your katana in place, your wakizashi and your tanto. Now the next element is the kyahan. Kyahan is very interesting, and there are several versions. I will show you my own version of kyahan, and then I'll tell you how it works normally. But what kyahan basically is, these are gaiters used to provide padding for your shin underneath your tsuneate, which is basically your shin guard or your greaves. Now, normally they are detached from the armor, but in officers' armors, they are instead sewn inside the shin guards, just like in mine, because again, mine is an officer armor, and you can see that this is basically the kyahan, and as you can see, it is part of the Shin Guard of the Tsuneate. My specific reproduction is made of Japanese silk. Now this is very important for the comfort, and so both for padding and for the comfort, because otherwise your bone would be hitting directly the leather and the metal, and that will not be pleasant, particularly if you need to kneel down. Now in my channel I have already explained everything basically about my samurai armor, the Tosei Gusoku or modern armor. You can find a link to a video where I show how to wear the armor piece by piece, and I say a little bit of fun facts for each item of the armor. So if you haven't watched it, check it out, it's very interesting. But today, just like I've done in the Roman clothing of a legionary, I would like to talk about the helmet. Now, this is a samurai helmet called a kabuto in Japanese. You can immediately distinguish it from ashigaru or foot soldiers, because this is what the helmet of an ashigaru would have looked like, and it's called kasa, which actually means umbrella, because that's basically what it does. It's very similar to the kind of hats worn by peasants, because that's basically what it does. It protects you from the rain, and in this case it's the same thing, but it's armored because it's made of metal. Instead, peasants would just have it made of straw. Now the helmet is very, very distinctive for the samurai, as you can see. There are several possible versions. This is one of the most iconic, I believe. And this part here is called maedate. Now maedate, it's detachable very easily, and there are many possible versions. I myself am planning on buying more and change it every once in a while. But this one here specifically it represents the full moon. You must have seen in anime and video games, for example, the half moon as well. It really depends on your clan, and it also depends on personal preference. So this is what a samurai kabuto looks like when worn. It is a very, very comfortable headgear, and it provides very good protection for the head, and it also allows for a lot of mobility, because these bands are very, very movable, as you can see. Differently from a Roman helmet, which did not have any lining inside, a samurai helmet does have a lining inside, as you can see. Of course, the helmet will be complete with a mask. Again, there are several possible versions. The moustache represents the experience of the warrior in battle, so the longest the moustache, the more experienced and the more of a veteran your opponent will be. The nose guard in the best versions is actually detachable. In fact, mine here is fully detachable, as you can see. So you can actually wear it like this, or with a nose. Lastly, we've got the Hoarder. Now, Hoarder was basically a cloak that was worn only by high-status samurai. It was worn for two reasons. First of all, was of course as a symbol of their status, but they were also worn to offer extra padding and protection against arrows. Moving to the actual hair, which I believe is quite famous, we've got the chommage. Now, what chommage actually is, and I think my hair is long enough to show you, is that you would just fold your hair in the front like this, okay, and this would basically be a chommage. Of course, you would have to shave your pate, which I'm not going to do, but I'm not sure if you can see it, but this is basically a chommage. Now, chommage was indicative of a samurai, so it was worn by samurai. The samurai had to have their hair long, and they would choose to use chommage for two reasons. First of all, it would be easier to wear your helmet because of the way it was organized that way, and also they would shave here, the front, as I said, the pate, for two reasons, because otherwise it would have got too hot, so it would help you with the heating inside the helmet, and secondly, if the hair happened to get loose, then it would not get in front of your eyes, blinding you during combat. Now, an interesting fun fact about Japanese hair and chommage, so the samurai hairstyle, is that although it was discontinued by samurai when the samurai class was abolished in Japan, we have to consider that there is still a kind of Japanese sportsman who wears the chommage even today, and that is the sumotori, or sumo wrestler. Now, they are the only ones who do this. Of course, the kind of chommage that they wear is slightly different to that of the samurai, but it does derive from that. So another interesting thing to say is that only pro sumo wrestlers can wear their hair tied up, and no sumo wrestler who wouldn't be a pro would actually do that, because then they could get disqualified, ashamed, lots of problems. So only professional sumo players of really high status can do that. And it's interesting because, of course, this has to do with the samurai thing, but having lived in Japan, I have to say that when you see a pro sumo wrestler, a sumotori, with his hair tied up in a chommage entering a supermarket or a mini market in Japan, well, goodness gracious, they're treated like gods. Now, and one last interesting fact is that during heavy rain, samurai would do just like everyone else would do at that time. They would wear coats made of straw. Alright then, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content from the Metatron. I am planning of making another video, but this time talking about the auxiliary armor components worn by the samurai in order to compensate for the parts that lacked protection and increase the protection and padding of the armor. There are quite a few, and I think it could be an interesting video. If you agree with me and you would like me to make this video, please let me know, giving me a good thumbs up. If I see a certain number of thumbs up, I will make the videos right away. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Sayonara.